Brom, get goals, get confidence, keep that momentum going forward, and keep the pressure up on City.
I'm with Eddie on that. You know, I was surprised by those comments. Manchester United, the biggest club in the world, or one of the biggest clubs in the world. They were top in January. Bruno Fernandes, they got pace in attack, you know, good midfield players. Okay, the goalkeeper's made a few mistakes recently, but still a top goalkeeper, whether he's suffering in confidence. Surely that mentality should be, you know, Manchester United Football Club, top in January, we are title contenders.
You're right, and I was at the game against Liverpool, and there were times where Liverpool were there for the taking, and United didn't really believe it. And you were there watching, and you were like, come on, go for it, because you can win this game. And if you win at Liverpool, at the time the gap was smaller with City, say, oh, you can win this title. They can win the league. I think Pogba's absence and Pogba's injury is a big blow, because I really believe he's on the pitch. The game against Everton doesn't finish as a draw. Yeah. He controls the end of the game. He manages it really well, him and McTominay. And then we're not talking about losing 2 points in the way they did. So I think that's a big blow. Still, they still have enough there to really push City until the end. But they have to believe it. You're right. Otherwise, it won't happen.
Do you think trying to get into Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's mind, there must be a reason as to why he's saying that? Do you think that from what he's seen from the players, that maybe there's an element there, Jules, where he thinks maybe these players quite like being the underdogs and they don't like the pressure on themselves to be that kind of top side?
It's
and
Man
maybe,
United, though.
I know. The fans won't be happy to hear that, of course, but maybe that's the way Ole Gunnar Solskjaer seems to get the best out of them.
Maybe it's also new for him. He's never been in this position. Pep Guardiola or Jurgen Klopp have been in many title races, and whether they're chasing or they were chased. For Solskjaer, this is all new to him. So maybe he's also learning. I do think that you have to push to your players, otherwise they get the wrong vibe, they get the wrong message coming through to them. They maybe not as focused, maybe not as hungry as they would be if you were every day on their back saying, come on, we can do this, we can win it. And maybe his lack of experience in that matter is also a big reason.
I think one of the players who's done unbelievably well, Scott McTominay. My son's at the Manchester United Academy, and I say to him, watch Scott McTominay. You know, he was quite small. Manchester United waited for him. He developed. Look at the size of him now. Look at his runs. You know, he's not just a number 6. He can get forward and score goals.
7 goals this season.
He has been absolutely brilliant, Annie.
Well, yeah, it's those runs, those late runs off the back of midfielders not tracking. It's the goals from outside the box. You know, I read that he was actually forward growing up, so he's got that finish in him. And now it's about, you know, playing alongside the likes of Pogba, controlling that midfield, but getting the goals going on. We've talked about Gundogan earlier. Similar, just getting in that box and getting the goals. He's been a big player for Man United, and great to see, you know, a player coming through the ranks as well.
Something that will really please the Man United fans is that they are the top scorers in the league with 49 goals. So a goal will see them get to 50 this season already in 24 or fewer games, Jules, which would be the first time they've done it since Alex Ferguson was the manager. That is what the fans want to hear, isn't it?
Yeah, of course. And that flow going forward, Bruno Fernandes is great. In certain games, especially against the big teams, it was not as convincing going forward than what they showed against Southampton when they won 9-0. For example, we saw a few 0-0s against Liverpool, against Man City. They're tough games. But I think that's also where you win titles and when you win league trophies, is by being able to beat those big teams, which United have a bit struggled this season. They haven't been great against the top 6. So scoring goals is great against anyone, but I think between now and the end of the season, they have to do it in the big games too.
And on Bruno Fernandes there, his record against the top 6, listen, he's been magnificent.
Yeah,
and
great.
For me, one of the best players in the Premier League. But to go onto that next level as a Manchester United great, United have to win trophies, and he has to perform against the top clubs.
Completely. You're right. And I'm sorry, as amazing as he's been, and you see the difference since he arrived and before, but those games he went missing. And at some point, again, the how much we say Spurs rely on Kane and etc. United rely a lot on Bruno Fernandes, and if he goes missing in those big games, then the whole game plan and everybody, Rashford, Martial, Cavani, whoever you want, Greenwood, they'll be lost as well, because he's the one who dictates the pace of the game, who creates everything, and if he's not there, then they struggle, and he has to be there in those big games.
We saw against Everton last week, Jules mentioned it already, Ennie, just some defensive frailties in this Man United squad. Could that be their undoing this season, and what will be the difference between them really pushing for this title or not?
Yeah, I think that is the Achilles heel. Harry Maguire obviously is the captain, is the leader, but you know, I think the jury's still out on Harry Maguire in terms of, is he that Man United centre-back that can really take them to winning the title? You see in this last goal, he kept everyone on side. And maybe it was the fear of, I want to win this, I want to go and win it. But it's that leadership, it's that bravery of saying, no, keep the line needed to be higher, and it's cost them to the win. So I think defensively it's the Achilles heel for Man United.
If I'm in that team in the Manchester United, because I grew up in the class of 92 with legends. Obviously I wasn't good enough to play for Manchester United, but if I'm in that dressing room and I'm playing that team midfield, I'm shouting at my captain, what on earth are you doing? Why are you dropping? Even the first goal, if you're not that quick, drop a bit deeper. And then I'll be turning around to my goalkeeper and saying, any danger you coming out and smashing somebody there? Seriously, any danger?
Completely. I don't know where you stand on the Henderson De Gea debate, but I think there's a fair case right now to say give Henderson a good, but I'm not just saying one game like he had against Sheffield United, or just give him 4 or 5 games in a row in the Premier League and see how he does, because as we see in the stats, and you can always look at stats differently, this is on a long period and Henderson hasn't played that long in the Premier League either, so they can't be there anywhere. But I'm sorry, De Gea against Everton was not good enough, and I think Solskjaer at the end saying that we have to concede less goals was mostly directed at De Gea, even if he didn't mention him.
Would you play Henderson instead of De Gea?
I just think with goalkeepers it's such a sensitive one, because if you drop a player of De Gea's stature and play Henderson, yes, Henderson might have a few games, but what then happens if Henderson has a bad game? What, do you bring De Gea back? It's a very psychological position.
Yeah.
You've almost got to wait for De Gea to almost have that big performance again. You're like, right, De Gea's back. I think you've got to be so careful with goalkeepers, particularly in a title challenge where it's about that consistency. But as a defensive unit, I definitely think they need to work on their line, because whether it's Harry Maguire playing too deep and not being confident, or it's De Gea coming out and saying, right, this is commanding. There's something that needs to be addressed there, I think.
I think Henderson was magnificent at Sheffield United. One of the reasons why I think Sheffield United is struggling this season is because of, Ramsdale's done okay, but not as good as Henderson. There must be, and if Henderson had an opportunity and done well, there's a chance he could be England's number one going into the Euros, because he's playing in big games for Manchester United. You've got Pickford in and out at the minute at Everton. You've got Pope, fantastic goalkeeper, but is involved in a relegation battle. If Henderson had a chance and done well, as an individual, he must be thinking, knocking on the manager's door, saying, give me a chance. Not only can I get Man United's first team, I've got a chance to start. If I do that, I'll start in the Euros. Yeah,
completely. You're right. And I think he knows it and he feels it. It was always a big gamble for him to go back to United, not really knowing if he was going to be number one, number two, or another number one, and see what happens. Because it's not a wasted season, but he hasn't played enough compared to his talent, really.
Would you be knocking on the manager's door right now?
Yeah, and I'm sure he has. I hope for him that he has, because that's what you should do. And maybe he will have that chance. Maybe we will see after this Everton game, he played in the Cup against West Ham, didn't concede. Maybe we'll play this weekend and then we'll have a good run to show what he can do. But yeah, if you were him, you would want to do that.
It's a big decision to drop De Gea. We've just talked.
That's what he's paid for.
We've just talked about Solskjaer's mentality towards that's a big decision. It's the equivalent of dropping an Alisson for making the mistakes that he did.
But he's made a few. Look,
I agree with you. I just think you got to think of the sort of psychological side of it, for what that happens to the dynamic of the team.
Yeah, but if Henderson goes in and does well, he deserves a chance. He's been in England squads. Am I wrong, Henderson?
Yeah.
Surely, if you're there, listen, you're director of football, your manager, because you're the manager at Aston Villa, Marcus Bignett.
Yeah.
Your goalkeeper, you're the director of football. You let the manager get on with it, making mistakes. What do you do?
No, it's definitely a conversation. It's a valid point, but what I'm saying is you've got to also think about the effect on your number one. You still got to keep your number one around.
How long can be number one for if he keeps making mistakes?
Yeah, look, give Henderson a chance. It's what happens. It's what happens if Henderson doesn't perform. Then you've got to call in your number one again, who you've binned off.
You've got to think long